Welcome to the tailgate. I'm Tim Kalinowski. You're Michael Calabrese. What are we doing? We're betting college football player props. And if you think that's crazy, there's a lot of value out there. So don't judge. Calabrese, how pumped are you? I mean, last week, you're one of the few people that last week, week 0, is actually enough football for you because you love all of those teams that nobody cares about.
Yeah, I mean, I do, but then I watched FIU throw for 4 yards on 14 attempts. So let's get to some real football this weekend. I have no problem just tolling the depths of G5 football, but that was even a bit much for me.
And I'm telling you, go find these player props. There's tons of value out there. We talked about it in our show. We did the preseason picks. It's pretty much the same story throughout the season. There's tons of value out there. And I like what you said. You can drive a truck through some of this value.
Absolutely. So let's get started. Friday night, Hawaii playing a home game, a rare G5 team hosting a Power 5 team. Stanford comes to the island. And right off the bat, for those uninitiated, the run and shoot is back with Hawaii. Timmy Chang is getting things going. And the narrative coming into the season was last year was year 0. Could he get any kind of momentum? Could they look put together on offense? They get their frequent flyer Miles out. They go to Vandy, and they almost upset an SEC team on the road. Braden Shager, their quarterback, throws for over 300 yards, tons of attempts. You're going to see more of that, probably 40, 45 attempts in this game. So for that reason, I'm targeting his top wide receiver, Pofele Ashlock. So what I love about college football is I just spent the last 8 months poring over magazines, reading every preview I could get my hands on, media days, reading beat writers. Never heard of this kid. I'm just going to shoot straight on this one. The fact of the matter is they pluck him out of Euless, Texas, which is nestled just outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, fly him all the way to Hawaii. And what does he do in his first game starting for them? 9 targets, turns that into 7 catches for 127 yards and a touchdown. What's his number this week? 62.5 against the Stanford team, also in a year 0 rebuild situation. I think this is criminally underpriced. So I'm going to go ahead over on his number. My projections call him for, mid 70s, maybe get up to the 80s in terms of receiving yards. So 62.5 is an absolute hammer over for me.
For you to admit that you did not know a college football player's name or that he existed, that is a major step. And I will say too, this Hawaii number against Stanford, it's going to get ugly there. It's going to get ugly. This Hawaii number after the Vanderbilt game went from Hawaii plus 8.5 all the way down to, I think it's 3. I think Hawaii should be favored. Stanford, it ain't going to be good. So you tell me an over on a Hawaii player playing a dreadful Stanford team. Yeah, no argument out of me. I'm going to be absolutely playing that. Basically,
anyone from my age demo, Hawaii has always represented the break glass in case of gambling emergency team where it's I'm down 6 units. It's 11:59 on a Saturday night on the East Coast. I'm just going to fire away on the Rainbow Warriors over. Let's just go with an over here and a player prop and get your weekend started right because it's a Friday night game kicking off at 11 p.m.
It's a special group Friday night, 11 p.m. as that bleeds into the early Saturday morning. So let's talk about Hawaii players. Let's go over to the Greek rifle, Ethan Kaliakmanis. Who's that? That would be the Minnesota quarterback. I got his over 177.5. Listen, you're probably thinking Minnesota, a quarterback passing yards over. This guy can chuck it. And when he played, he did chuck it. Last season, you look at the Wisconsin game where he filled in for an injured Tanner Morgan. He threw for over 300 yards. They come into this year, no Mohamed Ibrahim. It's I think they might have to go to play to their strengths here. I think they throw the ball all over the yard, at least enough to go over 177. You can't really bet under that. Tell me what you think. The Greek rifle, I have a lot of hope against Nebraska.
I mean, when this hits, what are you getting? Some chicken souvlaki, a little moussaka. I mean, the way you pronounce that last name, definitely a gyro and not a gyro. So I agree with you. I think this has value. This number is incredibly low for a game that's really going to rely on game flow. If they're behind at all, this number is just primed to drop because he's going to have to throw them back into the game. Now, I think when you think about PJ Fleck, he obviously was pounding the ball in recent years, but he does play to his strengths. When you look at what he did at Western Michigan, there were some years in which they were tossing it all over the place. Like you look at Corey Davis, he turned him into a top 5 NFL draft pick. So the fact of the matter is he plays to his strengths. I think this team will be more balanced than they're being given credit for here in the preseason.
Kaliakmanis over 177.5. Minnesota plays to their strengths. How about Colorado, Mike Calabrese?
All right, Coach Prime getting all of the offseason love, attention, hate. I mean, he's just absolute lightning rod. So let's go to the big noon kickoff. TCU against Colorado. Game flow, game flow, game flow. TCU is going to score north of 40 points in this game, and Colorado is going to be playing catch up for 3.5 quarters. What does that mean? Shadur Sanders is going to be putting the ball in orbit. He's an accurate quarterback, completed over 70% of his passes last year for Jackson State, and it made him, a contender to win the Walter Payton Award, which is the FCS Heisman. And when he goes downfield, which is he is wont to do, he only has one deep target, and that is Travis Hunter, the 5-star two-way player. He's going to be everything to this Colorado team. He could have this number drop, which is 32.5 for his receiving yards in a single reception. And I love that elements, the boomer bust part of it. In 4 of his last 5 games for Jackson State last year, when he was playing both ways, he went over this receiving total. So same quarterback, same head coach, same play from behind kind of mentality. I think this number potentially could be way off. You could see him get over 100 yards receiving in this game because there's going to be a lot of garbage time opportunities. And for that reason, it's one of my top plays here in week 1.
I saw the number and I'm like, is he not going to play offense? Like, well, how could that be so low? And then I said, well, if not him, then who? And you don't think Coach Prime wants to show off on opening night, his two-way player, his flashy little, I'm going to make him the next Dion. You don't think Dion wants to show that off? It's Coach Prime. I love that pick out of you. Anything else as we head into the weekend here? These numbers just start trickling in. You have to be on it like a hawk.
You do have to be on like a hawk. And I'll also say, when you look at a market like the NFL, so well calibrated all the way down to the player props, just not the case on the college side. So make sure to shop around, wait until kickoff in a lot of cases, because you're going to see some pretty big disparities, particularly in the first touchdown and anytime touchdown market. You could see a player go off at plus 250 and the same player go off at plus 375 at a different book. So always make sure that you're shopping around.
And remember, quarterback rushing yards, sacks are negative yards. So it's a net number. This ain't the NFL. Be careful. I almost fell into that again today.
Yeah, shout out to Graham Mertz. His rushing total for tonight's game, Florida-Utah, is set at 0.5. You're going to want to go under on that. The Utah Utes absolutely put teams in a vice grip last year, sacked quarterbacks for an average of negative 22 sack yards per game last year, and Graham Mertz isn't going to run the Wildcat. There's no way he's going to bank that up. So if you wanted a bonus pick, I'll go Graham Mertz, negative rushing yards in this game.
Graham Mertz sucked before I heard that number. Now that I heard that number, I really know he sucks. Hopefully the games this weekend won't suck. We are finally in the real college football slate. This should be an awesome weekend. Thank you, Mike Calabrese.
Take care, man. Have a good one.